Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's time for another guide video, and this time I'm going to be covering my favourite hero in For Honor, Peacekeeper. Through seasons 1 through 5, Peacekeeper was for the most part pretty disliked. She had fast attacks and dealt a lot of damage. She also had a bugged bleed stab where it wouldn't work correctly, and her dagger cancel was completely useless. Season 6 rolled around and PK got a rework, tweaks to her moveset allowing a viable dagger cancel, and soft feints from both her heavy openers and heavy finishers. She could now stack bleed effectively, but this came at the cost of drastically reduced damage. The developers then noticed she wasn't being played often, and when she was losing a lot of matchups. So Season 9 gave her more improvements, making Peacekeeper the only character to have been given attention twice. A little extra damage, stamina cost changes, and finally a heavy from guard break, and that's where she sits now. This guide will assume you know the basics of For Honor combat, and you're also familiar with the terminology, such as guard breaks, parrying, chains, and feints etc., and is aimed at new and existing players to help learn a new character. Before we get started, however, I'm going to leave a link in the description to a channel called Callix Gaming. Apologies if I butchered the pronunciation there. Callix is a Rep 70 Peacekeeper and has fantastic montage and general gameplay videos, including one showing how Peacekeeper has evolved throughout the game. Please go over and check the channel out, show some support, and you can all see a Peacekeeper played masterfully. Peacekeeper is the Knight's assassin class hero next to Gladiator. She has one of the fastest default sprint speeds in the game and fights with both a short sword and a dagger. Being an assassin, she has a reflex guard. Reflex guards are only active for a short time before you have no guard. No guard is represented on screen by your guard widget being black in all directions. You must continue to refresh your guard to keep it up. This means that you must be conscious of blocking attacks on reaction as opposed to preemptively. Peacekeeper has 3 chains. Twisting Blades is 2 light attacks into a heavy finisher. Dervish Strikes is a light opener into a heavy finisher, and Sword Dance is a heavy opener into heavy finisher. From neutral, Peacekeeper's light attacks hit for 14 damage, and her chain lights hit for 15 damage. This is consistent in all 3 directions. PK's side heavies are 20 damage from neutral, and her top heavy hits for 23 damage. Her chain heavies hit for 27 damage regardless of direction. When out of lock and sprinting towards your opponent, press guard break to perform slipping lunge. This behaves like a regular guard break. You get the same options you would normally do from a guard break, and opponents can still counter guard break this. Peacekeeper will actually snap to nearby opponents when using this, making it an effective chasing tool, combined with her fast sprint speed. It's best used to ambush unsuspecting enemies. The example on screen shows just how much extra distance is covered when using slipping lunge to chase an opponent.
You captured Zone A.
Perhaps Peacekeeper's most signature moves is her bleed stabs from guard break. When you successfully guard break an opponent, pressing light attack up to 3 times will see Peacekeeper target her opponent's organs and start shanking. These stabs can be done relatively quickly, or they can be delayed slightly. Use delayed stabs when ganking an opponent, or to waste their revenge time. You cannot simply mash light attack in hopes of hitting all 3 stabs though. The inputs must be timed. After the first stab, press light attack again as Peacekeeper pulls her dagger out of her opponent. You can opt to throw your opponent after the first or second stab. This is usually only useful for wall splat or environmental punishers, as it costs extra stamina to throw. The bleed stabs are quite stamina taxing however, so relying on them too much will quickly leave you vulnerable, especially if you're getting your guard breaks via soft feinted heavies. Monitor your stamina carefully. It's better to only do 1 or 2 bleed stabs and be pushed away, than committing to more stabs than you have the stamina for. Dodging forward and pressing heavy attack will perform dashing thrust. This attack does 17 damage and can execute if you manage to get a kill with it. Similarly, dodging to either the left or right and pressing heavy attack performs the sidestep strike. This also does 17 damage and can execute on a kill. Deep Gouge is a bleed stab follow-up from a heavy attack. It doesn't matter if it's a heavy opener, chain heavy, or any of her dodge heavies. Do this by pressing light attack after your heavy attack lands successfully. The bleed stab itself does 11 damage, 1 direct and 10 bleed. This cannot be performed if your heavy attack is blocked, and revenge activation can interrupt the dagger follow-up even if Peacekeeper's prior heavy attack successfully landed. PK's zone attack is a two-part attack. The first part is a light attack and the second part is a heavy attack. The light hits for 15 damage whilst the second part of the zone hits for 20 damage. Both attacks hit your opponent's right guard and Peacekeeper is able to feint the second part of her zone attack. This is the fastest attack Peacekeeper has access to, being 400 milliseconds from neutral. That's not all though. During the startup of her second attack from her zone, you can press light attack to soft feint into a dagger cancel. This is another variation of her bleed stab. You can also soft feint to dagger cancel during the startup of her neutral and chain heavies. The dagger cancel will always hit top guard and does 16 damage, 1 direct and 15 bleed. Peacekeeper has more soft feint options from her heavy startups. During the startup of a neutral or chain heavy, you can soft feint into guard break or you can soft feint into a dodge. Do this by inputting the desired action during the startup of a heavy attack. You can use these to mix up your soft feint options. Dodging can help with repositioning and guard breaking can help against opponents fishing for a dagger cancel parry. You can perform a deflect by dodging into an opponent's blockable attack. I recommend that you practice deflects against opposing top attacks and attacks that are undodgeable, as your dodge iframes are ignored so that your deflect will take priority. After a successful deflect, pressing light attack performs the riposting stab. This attack is unblockable and hits for a total of 35 damage, 20 direct and 15 bleed. This is also considered a chain starter, so you can use the momentum of a successful deflect to get into your offensive pressure. Now for Peacekeeper's punishers. On a guard break, you can get your triple stabs. You get 6 direct damage and 32 bleed for a total of 38 damage. Alternatively, you can land a side heavy for 20 damage. This will be your go-to punish when you want an execution. You can also follow up the side heavy with deep gouge for a total of 31 damage, 21 direct and 10 bleed. When near a wall, perform 2 bleed stabs and throw your opponent to the wall. Afterwards, you can hit your dodge forward heavy into deep gouge. Total damage is 48, 22 direct and 26 bleed. If you're too close to the wall, however, though, the dodge forward heavy can be blocked. On a heavy parry, you can get a light attack for 14 damage, or the first part of your zone for 15 damage. On a light parry, you input top heavy into deep gouge for 34 damage, 24 direct and 10 bleed. When throwing an out of stamina opponent, perform 2 bleed stabs before the throw. The direction of your throw does not matter. Dodge towards your opponent and input a top heavy into deep gouge. The total damage here is 54, 28 direct and 26 bleed. When parrying an out of stamina opponent, input a light attack into a heavy attack, followed by deep gouge. Total damage is 52, 42 direct and 10 bleed. If you manage to guard break your opponent when out of stamina, you can get a light attack for 14 damage. If you're out of stamina and manage to parry a light attack, you can get your own light attack for 14 damage. Though I have no footage due to the training mode restrictions, on revenge activation the best you can manage is a top heavy into deep gouge. This does a total of 47 damage, 32 direct and 15 bleed. Peacekeeper's feats won't blow you away, but she doesn't have bad ones. Conqueror and Stealth have their niche uses, but any hero that has access to Bounty Hunter should be taking it. The other feats are really all down to personal preference. Revenge attacks are self-explanatory. Fiat Lux isn't bad, but it's mainly an escape tool, as Peacekeeper doesn't have strong out of stamina pressure. Thick skin can help patch up Peacekeeper's low health pool a little bit. For tier 3, again your choices are your own. I like to run Crossbow in Breach and Tribute for chasing down banner carriers and picking off wounded opponents. Pungo Mortis is a decent AoE, emergency minion clear for Dominion. Sharpened Blade makes all of Peacekeeper's attacks inflict bleed, which if she's able to land several can quickly decimate opponents' health. As for tier 4 feats, Last Laugh can be a nice clutch tool, especially if you're ganked and your opponents fail to execute, though it does have the potential to be wasted too. Catapult I've never used since its nerf during the Marching Fire update, and Fear itself combines very well with Sharpened Blade, but mainly helps to patch up Peacekeeper's low damage, if only for a short while. Peacekeeper doesn't have high enough damage to benefit from early Reaper or crush them. Add to the fact that the bonus damage granted to you could be wasted on a 1 damage dagger cancel. Since you'll be soft feinting a lot, Endurance helps with stamina management, With heavy on guard break, Peacekeeper has an easier time executing opponents now. Devourer stacks with Bounty Hunter for some nice health regen, and Galestorm bolsters Peacekeeper's high sprint speed to get her around the battlefield taking zones or chasing fleeing opponents. Overall, Peacekeeper is a good hero. Without an unblockable similar to Shamans or some kind of bash however, Peacekeeper is always going to struggle opening opponents at high level play. Despite that though, Peacekeeper is a very fun hero to play. Bleeding out opponents and scoring deflects is always extremely satisfying, and whether the defs buffer again or not, I'll keep playing her regardless. If you enjoyed the video, or found this guide helpful, leave it a like and consider supporting the channel by subscribing. Tick the bell icon to receive notifications of new content, and please comment down below if I've missed anything out. Remember to check out Callix Gaming in the video description, and thank you all so much for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now!